The Danny Thomas Show, called Make Room for Daddy for its first 3 seasons, is an American sitcom which ran from 1953 to 1957 on ABC and from 1957 to 1964 on CBS. A revival series known as Make Room for Granddaddy aired on ABC from 1970 to 1971. Episodes regularly featured music as part of the plot by Danny Thomas, guest stars, and occasionally by other cast members. In March 1953, Danny Thomas first signed the contract for the show with ABC and chose Desilu Studios to film it, using its 3-camera method. 2 proposed titles during pre-production were The Children's Hour and Here Comes Daddy. Synopsis: Thomas played the role of Danny Williams, a successful comedian and nightclub entertainer at the Copa Club, a takeoff on the iconic New York City nightclub the Copacabana. Gene Hagen played his serious and loving wife Margaret, Sherry Jackson their daughter Terry, and Rusty Harmer their son Rusty. The show's premise involved Danny rarely having time to spend with his family and Margaret having to deal with the children virtually on her own. She often felt neglected by Danny, and on several occasions felt like loving him. Margaret was a society woman and strict with the children, but loved her family. Louise Beavers made several appearances during this era as the Williamses' maid, Louise Evans, and often was at odds with Danny and sided with Margaret in most of the couple's arguments. Nana Bryant often appeared as Margaret's kind mother, of whom Danny and the children were fond. But Margaret, who had been raised by her aunt and uncle because of her mother often being away on stage tours, was not as warm towards her mother. Bryant died in late 1955, and rather than the character being recast, it simply disappeared. When Louise Beavers became ill in 1955, Amanda Randolph assumed the role of Louise. Series changes. For its first 3 years, Make Room for Daddy garnered decent ratings, but failed to make the list of the top 30 programs. Shortly after the 3rd season finished filming, Gene Hagen left the show due to dissatisfaction with her role and frequent clashes with Danny Thomas. Thomas was upset with her for leaving, and felt the show would not last without her. However, he decided to push on without her. At the start of the 4th season, the series title was changed to The Danny Thomas Show. Both Thomas and producer Sheldon Leonard were faced with a serious dilemma: how to explain Hagen's absence. To have Danny and Margaret divorce in that era would have been unacceptable to television audiences. So, it was explained that Margaret suddenly had died off-screen. It was a risky move. Until this time, no character on a TV situation comedy had died. Danny now was a widower juggling a performing career while raising 2 children on his own. He had Louise and his friends often looking after the children while he was touring. He decided to move them to a boarding school, but later relented and the family moved into a new apartment. During the season, the Danny character dated a few other women and nearly got engaged to a widowed singer until he found out she did not like children. By season's end, the ratings had suffered and it was decided that a wife and mother was needed to complete the family unit. In a 4-part story arc that began airing in April M1957, son Rusty fell ill with the measles and Danny hired Kathy O'Hara, Marjorie Lord, a young Irish nurse, to look after him. Kathy was a widow with a little girl, played by Leilani Sorensen. Danny and Kathy became fast friends and, not surprisingly, Danny quickly fell in love with her, as did the kids. In the season finale, Kathy proposed to Danny because he was too nervous to do so, and the two became engaged. In a curious twist, ABC at this point cancelled the series, which proved to be fortunate. In the spring of 1957, I Love Lucy, which had reigned as the top-rated show for almost all of its 6-year run on CBS, was ending production. When CBS heard that ABC was canceling The Danny Thomas Show, it picked it up as part of its 1957 1958 schedule. So, The Danny Thomas Show made its debut on the CBS television network on Monday, October 7, 1957, at 9 p.m., inheriting the time slot vacated by I Love Lucy. The fifth season premiere episode, Lose Me in Las Vegas, had Danny and Kathy already married and on their honeymoon. The Williams family moved into a larger brand new apartment and, with the change of network, the producers also changed Kathy's daughter. Leilani Sorensen was dropped from the cast and replaced by Angela Cartwright as Linda. Linda then was adopted by Danny, and the show's ratings dramatically increased. In fact, at the end of its fifth season, The Danny Thomas Show posted its highest rating at the time, ranking at No. 2. During this season, Amanda Randolph was sick and rarely appeared as Louise. The majority of the season, Louise was said to be recovering from the flu and Kathy was seen doing most of the housework. In the early part of the sixth season, Sherry Jackson left the show and the character of Terry was said to have gone to a girls' school in Paris, according to an interview posted on IMDb. Jackson commented on her close friendship with Jean Hargan and why she left the series. She said, "The major perk was Jean Hargan. I adored her. We had a great time. She and I were best buddies. She was my only friend from the Make Room for Daddy cast. What made me specifically want to leave the show? I had a 5-year contract. Jean had a 3-year contract. Jean was thoroughly fed up with the series and made it clear that she didn't want to come back. When she left, I was devastated. I didn't want to continue either. I wanted to break my contract. They wouldn't let me leave, but gave me less to do. That's why I'm in fewer shows from ages 14 to 16. Quote, during season 7, the character of Terry was brought back, but recast with Penny Parker. Terry was featured in a 7-episode story arc which had her engaged and eventually married to Pat Hannigan. Pat Harrington, Jr., a nightclub friend of Danny's. After the wedding, the Hannigans moved to California and Terry was rarely mentioned, and Pat and she were never seen on the program again. In the last 2 seasons, Danny and Kathy both regularly traveled. Danny Thomas and Marjorie Lord were tired from their roles and decided to reduce them to a degree, and much of the 10th season they were touring Europe. A handful of episodes featured location shot footage from Europe, and Rusty and Linda were looked after by Danny's manager, Charlie Halper, Sid Melton, and his wife, Bunny, Pat Carroll. During the 11th and final season, Thomas decided to retire from the show and the program ended in spring 1964. At this time, it was still one of the most popular television programs, ranking at number 9. Cast: Danny Thomas as Danny Williams, Jean Hargan as Margaret Williams, 1953 to 1956. Marjorie Lord as Kathy Clancy O'Hara Williams, 1957 to 1964. Rusty Harmer as Rusty Williams. Angela Cartwright as Linda Williams, 1957 to 1964. Sherry Jackson as Terry Williams, 1953 to 1958. Penny Parker as Terry Williams, 1959-1960. Louise Beavers as Louise, 1953 to 1955. Amanda Randolph as Louise, 1955 to 1964. Supporting. The supporting cast included Sid Melton as Charlie Halper, Pat Carroll as Bunny Halper, 1961 to 1964. Sheldon Leonard as Phil Brokaw, 1957 to 1961. Ben Lassie as Benny, 1953 to 1959. Mary Wicks as Liz O'Neill, 1955 to 1957. Pat Harrington, Jr. as Pat Hannigan, 1959 1960. Jesse White as Jesse Leeds, 1953 to 1957. Notable guest stars. Hans Conried had frequent guest appearances as Danny's eccentric Lebanese uncle Tonyus. In real life, Thomas was Lebanese. Conried was not. Other frequent guests included Bill Dana as Jose Jimenez. Annette Funicello as an Italian exchange student named Gina Manelli. And Thomas's protégé, Italian teenage singer Piccola Pupa. Other notable guest stars included bandleader and musician Harry James, who appeared in the episode The Trumpet Player, and the legendary Jimmy Durante, who appeared as himself in the episode Danny and Durante. Episodes. Theme song. The theme music was various versions, changing over the years, of the traditional Irish song, Danny Boy. Nielsen ratings. Spin-off and crossovers. The series was responsible for the creation of another long-running sitcom, The Andy Griffith Show. In the 7th season, Danny Thomas is arrested by Sheriff Andy Taylor, Andy Griffith, and detained in the small town of Maybury in an episode entitled Danny Meets Andy Griffith. The episode aired on February 15, 1960, and The Andy Griffith Show premiered later that year on October 3. The series also crossed over to several other series, including the Lucy Desi Comedy Hour and the Joey Bishop Show. Maury Amsterdam guest-starred as Buddy Sorrell of The Dick Van Dyke Show in the episode The Women Behind the Jokes. Some episodes featured Bill Dana as Jose Jimenez, which led to the spin-off series The Bill Dana Show. Danny Thomas played himself in one episode. Sequel. The show ended in 1964, but Danny Thomas, Marjorie Lord, Angela Cartwright, Rusty Harmer, Sherry Jackson, Amanda Randolph, and Hans Conried returned in a 2-hour-long reunion specials on NBC, the Danny Thomas TV Family Reunion in 1965. Considered the first TV reunion show, and Make More Room for Daddy, which aired as an episode of the Danny Thomas Hour in November 1967. Shortly after filming the second special in 1967, Randolph died suddenly of a stroke at the age of 70. Then a CBS reunion special, Make Room for Granddaddy, was aired in 1969. The special did so well that it was picked up as a series by CBS. But Thomas considered the slot they gave it as a quiet slot and pulled the show. ABC brought it back on a weekly basis in 1970. In Make Room for Granddaddy, for the series premiere, Sherry Jackson reprised her role of oldest daughter Terry. No mention was made of her husband Pat Hannigan. Instead, for this new version of the series, Terry's husband was named Bill, who was a soldier. In this episode, Terry left her son, 6-year-old Michael, played by Michael Hughes, in the care of his grandparents, Danny and Kathy, so she could join Bill, who was stationed overseas. In addition to Marjorie Lord, Rusty Harmer, and Angela Cartwright, the only other returning regulars were Sid Melton as Charlie Halper and Hans Conried as Uncle Tonyus. During that season, new characters were played by Stanley Myron Handelman and former football player Roosevelt Greer. The show lasted only 1 year, producing 24 episodes. Its cancellation came at a time when the networks were purging content favoring older, rural, and other less affluent viewers due to the loss of a half-hour of daily program time in 1971. According to Marjorie Lord, the series faced many obstacles, including the unprofessionalism and inexperience of the child actor Michael Hughes, the absence of Sheldon Leonard as producer, director to control Thomas and improve the quality of the scripts, and the fact that ABC switched the time slot of the show from Wednesday nights at 8 9:00 p.m. to Thursday nights at 9:00 p.m. As a result, the ratings went from mediocre to poor. Reruns of the ABC episodes were aired Monday through Friday on NBC from October 4, 1960, to March 26, 1965. CBS aired primetime repeats April 19 through September 6, 1965, on Monday nights at 9:30 p.m. Est. Subsequently, most of the CBS episodes were then syndicated and offered to local stations. The first 4 seasons from ABC were not put into syndication. From February 1, 1987 to 1991, the show's 5th through 9th seasons were shown on Nick at Night. TV Land has also shown several of the Marjorie Lord episodes. Good Life Television aired the majority of the episodes from the 4th season until the 7th season, and select episodes from seasons 8 and 9. MeTV aired the show from Labor Day of 2012 to December 31, 2014. In 2014, the series also joined the weekday lineup of Cozy TV, where it currently airs all 1957 to 1964 episodes featuring Marjorie Lord in reruns. DVD releases. On September 28, 2004, Questar released the complete 5th season on Region 1 DVD. The set includes 2 special episodes: the 4th season finale, Danny's Proposal, and the pilot for The Andy Griffith Show. The complete 6th season on DVD was released on January 22, 2008. It was released by a different company from the Season 5 package and contained uncut episodes, with vintage second-run opening titles from the early 1960s NBC network daytime reruns. Several of the early episodes with Gene Hagen can be purchased on discount DVDs, as these episodes have entered public domain due to lapse of copyright. Make Room for Daddy, The Danny Thomas Show on Internet Movie Database. Make Room for Daddy, The Danny Thomas Show at TV.com. Make Room for Granddaddy on Internet Movie Database. Make Room for Granddaddy at TV.com.